Welcome to another episode of our podcast. I have absolutely no idea what episode this is.
22.
22. I do now know what episode it is. It's episode 22. And we thought we'd sort of be vaguely topical. Well, vaguely topical for us, because as we're recording this in October. You might be listening to this in November or June. But in October, we were thinking a little bit about Halloween.
Yes.
Halloween, for those of you who don't know, is a originally religious festival celebrated on the 31st of October. Mm-hmm. Halloween stands for All Hallows Eve, because the 1st of November is All Hallows Day, the day before All Souls Day, which is the 2nd. So it's part of the kind of religious calendar for hundreds of years, but I think it's probably fair to say that for most people, their first kind of access to Halloween probably isn't through a religious service.
No, not personally.
That's not what people think of doing that evening.
No, it's not. No, I don't think there's a sort of a liturgy for trick or treating in the prayer book. Last time I looked.
I wonder if it's like if the same would happen. What would happen to Christmas if the church stopped running services?
Well, yeah, I mean that's.
It would stay in some form.
Christmas would stay, yeah, but it would become.
It'd become the chocolate, the presents.
Yeah.
The tree.
It would become Xmas.
Yes.
That was quite fashionable when I was.
Isn't it just the equivalent of what Easter is for most non-Christians nowadays?
I think so. So it's
chocolate egg.
Chocolate eggs. It's a sort of spring festival, isn't it? So it would become a kind of Yuletide festival, wouldn't it?
Yes.
There was some attempts, weren't there, a few years ago in various councils, much to everyone's amusement, to sort of. A Winterval. Do you remember Winterval? That was a...
Winterval?
Did you not hear of Winterval?
That's renaming Christmas.
Yeah, renaming Christmas so that no one's offended.
You were meant to say not Merry Christmas.
Season's greetings. Season's greetings. Yeah. No, it's just... well, and Christmas cards. So Christmas cards often don't have any... I think it's probably got better again, actually. But there was a long time when Christmas cards didn't really have any relationship to Christmas.
Yes.
They'd be sort of generic winter scenes. I discovered why the robins are on cards.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that's postmen, 19th century postmen often called robins, so that's why robins are on.
Right.
So there's actually more logic
to
to
that.
that.
Because of like the red post bag or something?
Don't ask me detail.
Fair enough.
This is just a sort of half-remembered, possibly true fact. But now it's on a podcast. Obviously.
Yeah.
Someone else can say, "Oh, I've heard it on a
podcast." Yeah, exactly. Let's keep spreading that misinformation.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting question. So what would happen? So what you're saying is because, well, I suppose it's all sort of. When I was at school, it's a long time ago, we didn't really do... We did Halloween, but I seem to remember at school one year doing like poems about witches.
Yeah.
Obviously nice witches.
Yeah.
Is this familiar for you as well?
He's quite a lot younger than me.
Yeah, but different schools. We did nothing on Halloween. Halloween wasn't talked about at all.
No.
Was it not?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was shunned. Halloween was essentially always presented to me. It was only in the last few years that I have discovered that it was a Christian festival.
Yeah.
Oh no, it wasn't presented to me as a Christian festival.
No, it was presented as an evil thing.
Yeah.
No, it was presented as a vaguely comedic thing. So I suppose I'm old enough that trick-or-treating hadn't really taken off in the UK. So we're talking early 80s here when I was at school.
Right.
And therefore, that whole sort of sense that Halloween might be a time when, people start putting fireworks through your letterbox because you didn't give them any sweets. That hadn't really hit. We hadn't culturally developed to that point.
Or people hadn't dressed up as what they thought a thing was.
It was only when the likes of you started going trick-or-treating that we...
Oh, we weren't allowed trick-or-treating.
No.
Do you have white parties?
I've heard of them since.
We had light parties.
We
didn't do any of that.
In my last job, we did a light party, and the whole idea...
So a light party, that's an alternative. That's like, don't go out trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Because it's dark.
Bring your kids into this big hall, and we had neon glow-in-the-dark paints that we would cover ourselves in, and then you do games like what was it? Cold Dits? Did you do that?
Okay.
You know what Cold Dits is?
No.
Okay, really old scout game. The idea is you've got in pitch black field. shine a sort of torchlight, and if one of the levers catches you with the torch, you've got to go all the way up.
Oh, yeah.
Classic scout game. Yeah. So we do stuff
like
like
that.
There's
lots of people running around shouting "Schnell, Schnell, Achtung, Achtung" or anything like that.
No,
because if it wasn't you, I don't think you're playing it properly.
No.
Because that's Escape from Colditz, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
I do remember that film. That's where I've started picking up my German. Achtung, Achtung, Schnell, Schnell. Apologies to any German listeners. I know there's a little bit more to it than that, but that's classic sort of war films from the 1950s, 60s. Mind you, probably didn't watch those either as kids, did you?
Not really.
No. Whereas, like when I was
a kid, history,
no, but it's just but you also like when there are only 3 channels.
Yeah.
And you want to watch TV. Sometimes you just have to watch what's on TV.
Sometimes
that'll be black and white film.
I remember watching. We weren't allowed TVs in my room for years, and eventually, when we were finally allowed one, me and my brother would both sleep. We had a bunk bed. Both sleep in my bedroom because we were finally allowed to bring the TV up because Sam had been ill, and we sat. And the only thing, because it was one of those old, the massive,
I'm going to speak. I am. Your parents are taking some stick. Fancy letting you have a TV in your room.
I know, it's great.
That explains a lot.
The only channel we had access to while it was up there was this. To me, it was like a video game. It was this channel where it was a bunch of battles being simulated, but like 3D. Like versions of the little men on horses, like charging down these big 3D generated cliffs. It was the most bizarre. We had no sound because the signal was too bad up in the bedroom. So we'd open up all the windows, and it was brilliant. We had a wonderful time. It was good fun. We were only allowed the TV up there once, and then it was taken down right after Sam. Well, Sam fell off the top bunk and fell onto it, so we didn't have a TV after that. But other than that, it was good fun.
Great. So.
Should we try and go back to? Should we try and circle back to
it? Yeah.
So, wait, 2 questions. So when did you find out that it was not just like a light party? It was like a holy evening.
I learned that I think it was end of high school, and it was a bunch of my friends wanted to do like a Halloween party thing, and then one of them just said it in passing that it was like an old religious festival thing, that's where it'd come from, and therefore, you should love it, James, you're a Christian.
Okay.
And I was like, that's not what I heard.
It's like old religious festival where we dress up as skeletons.
And demons and witches and all sorts.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, it is interesting, isn't it? Because I was saying to you before, I was for a while when I was a kid, I went to a church youth group really, probably about 3 or 4 years in Allerton in Liverpool, and the church was called All Hallows. And so they actually kind of made quite a bit about All Hallows Day, All Saints Day, the 1st of November. So I was aware, but I'm not sure, and therefore I knew that Halloween was All Hallows Eve, but I don't think I ever thought of All Hallows Eve as a Christian festival. More just that it was the day before. But of course, why wouldn't it be? Because it's like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in that sense, isn't it? There is that sense of... But yeah, I suppose... and then I guess, over the last 20 years, and I think it's probably less now than it used to be, but there was a time when you genuinely did have to make a decision about what were you doing with Halloween.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? As a church, what were you doing?
Yes.
Because there were going to be... where we used to live, it's never been the case here, but where we used to live, we did have to put a sign on the door saying, no trick-or-treaters, please. And partly we did that because our kids were quite small.
Yes.
And therefore, people banging on the door after they've gone to bed is quite frightening. But also it was because actually I just find the whole idea that someone knocks on your door dressed up and demands sweets from you and will do something horrible if you say no. I just find that sort of vaguely repulsive. So I'm sort of less bothered about the dressing up.
So a friend
it's just kind of not fun, is it?
A friend who I went to college with isn't ordinary, will get ordained this year. He's a filmmaker, became a Christian in his early 20s and has made a series of films. And he did a talk with someone about reclaiming. He did a talk with a friend who knew a lot about reclaiming Halloween and understanding some of the stories behind it. And a lot of them I had no idea about. So one of them he talked about is souling, which was the idea that after harvest, those people who had no food would go round to those people who had just had their food and would go and offer a prayer, because that's all they had to offer in return for food. And the idea, to some extent, it's folklore,
Sort of
so it goes into.
slightly-
So to some extent, how
Slight gleaning
and,
element of
and
that,
if
isn't
you
there?
didn't, obviously, if you didn't give food, you didn't get the prayer,
Okay.
Yeah.
and eventually that then turns out and gets commercialised and gets twisted into
Okay.
or changed into trick or treat.
This sounds like Bob a Job Week.
You're gonna have to explain that one.
Do you remember Bob a Job Week?
Me? Yes, when I was in the Cub Scouts.
Yeah, so the Cub Scouts, you basically go around people's... I mean, you couldn't do it. Safeguarding would like be all over this,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
this is what you used to do. You used to go round as a small child to people's houses that you didn't know very well and offer to do jobs for them for money.
Oh yeah. Can't clean
Yeah.
your
That
Right,
face.
right.
Yeah, can I mow your lawn? Can I?
Yeah, what do you do? Do you wash your
Interesting.
hands? And obviously you would get a bob,
Yeah.
which
Which was money.
A
Form
shilling.
Of money.
Shilling, right.
Shilling.
That's old.
One
well, that's where the name comes from. Which when old money
just handing you
goes,
over a
Which- how much-
policeman or
How much
something.
is a shilling?
It
For those who don't know.
Yeah.
well, given that there are 20 shillings in the pound, or there were old money, it's 5p. So it's
Well,
5p.
he says this wonderful assumption, isn't it? It's this wonderful
when I-
peek
listen,
into
when I
the
was a
psyche.
kid,
What's a penny?
Before they change something you spend, before they changed to smaller 5p's and 10p's, okay? 'Cause-
Okay.
So when they first went decimal, the size of the 10p coin was deliberately the same size as a 2 shilling coin, and the size of the 5p coin was deliberately the same size as the 1 shilling coin. So that I can remember all the way through to the 80s that when you had a 10p, it might be a 10 pence piece, new money, but it might be a 2 shilling piece. They were exactly the same, and they were both legal tender.
And they were both the
Okay.
same value.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they converted, because they're 20 shillings in the old pound, so when they decimalised, they said, well, 1 shilling was 12p, as you know, under the old system. You've done your history, but now it became. It disappoints me that people don't know
As
this.
soon as we learned about money, there was nothing about shillings.
You see, when I went to
Sixpence
school, because
or anything. Apart from nursery rhymes,
there was still some shillings in some of the books because they were old.
Yeah.
Because decimalisation was early 70s. Before I was born, let's just clarify that. But it was still kind of, you know how it's a slow burn, isn't
Fair
it?
enough.
I can remember. This is nothing to do with Halloween. I can remember being excited about the launch of the 20 pence piece.
Oh, very.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
About 1982.
I
Yeah.
remember, yeah.
The fact you both remember that is
Why
a
do you
little
know the dates?
concerning. What does it matter?
Because that's when I can remember dates from.
Okay.
And Channel 4, I believe, the same year.
Oh, was that 1982? What a good year that is.
Channel 4 and
Really?
20 pence piece. Listen, when you've only got 3 channels and one of them's BBC Two, you are very grateful for another channel.
Fair enough.
Because there might be something worth watching on it.
It's just the Simpsons channel when I was younger. That was all I ever watched it for.
Channel 4 News, that was at 7 o'clock, revolutionary
Watching
time.
That was past my bedtime.
Well, of course.
CVs, you
And,
know.
slightly edgy documentaries to start with.
Edgy.
Yeah, so do you remember Channel 5? Look, no. No.
Let's go back to
No,
how
yeah.
it was just depressing.
Oh dear. So anyway,
So anyway, so that was how
Yeah,
we
okay.
got there.
I
And
like
there was
that.
another one about the pumpkins and the jack-o'-lanterns
oh man, yeah.
and a story about
So where
that.
does that come from? Because the other thing about pumpkins isn't like a UK thing, is it?
So
It's a seasonal food, though, right?
Yeah, but not in the UK.
gourds, no, but as in, like, if you're trying to eat, what's it called, like calendar eating, where you're eating
Yes,
the
but-
season's vegetable,
but-
then like gourds and stuff
but-
last pretty well into autumn.
But that's not what you wouldn't have historically grown pumpkins in the UK, would you?
So I can't exactly. It is a post-Christian idea. It was somewhere between a guy called Jack,
We really should have done some research, shouldn't we?
a guy called
possibly.
Jack,
I think it's better without
who gets caught
Oh yeah.
basically eternally in between the devil and God.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have this like, which obviously is a little bit tied to the idea of All Souls. So on All Saints Day, you pray for the saints who you believe have gone to heaven. It's like, well, what do you do with your dear loved ones who you can't with any degree of certainty know where they've gone, or there wasn't any sign? Do you know what I mean? It's like, well,
Yeah. Okay.
and so there's
so
that.
I presume you're into the kind of medieval ideas around purgatory and probably
I think
a little
that's
bit,
in and around.
probably a little bit of limbo in the sense that you've got this idea of, which is not in the Bible. You've got this idea of some kind of intermediate place between hell and heaven that is not heaven, but is not hell either.
Or at least we kind of,
Three
or the
tier
ones where it's like you don't know.
Yeah, but I think that's where purgatory comes in, isn't it? So if you read Dante,
Yes.
then you've kind of got Dante visits. First he visits hell, then he visits purgatory, and then he gets to heaven, and it's clearly because he's clearly using other stuff. There's like a well-developed circle of who's in which circle of hell and who's in which circle of purgatory.
Yeah.
So, so that would range from the people who've done certain things they need to, but also to the people who, do you know what I mean? Virgil,
yes,
who's his guy,
first guy.
he's only allowed as far as purgatory.
Yes.
So it gets quite weird, but I think that must be what lies behind that whole idea that there's somewhere else to go between heaven and hell, which again is just.
So was the idea that Jack is trapped in the middle, right?
Exactly.
And then these lanterns are like, he guides them. Is it that kind of thing, like guiding the spirits?
I can't. So vaguely, from what I can remember, and the podcast is probably a better that one that you can go and listen to for more. But it talks about that Jack was not a good guy, but tricked the devil into convincing the devil not to take his soul into hell. So when he dies, he goes up to the pearly gates and doesn't get in, and then is sent to hell's gates, and the devil has promised him not to get in.
Yeah.
So on his way out, he throws him a
pumpkin,
a burning ember.
Oh, interesting.
It's too hot to hold, so he gets something to hold it, and therefore is walking back and forth. So now you can take that in terms of down the symbolically. You can take it down to what happens after we die. You could also take it as to somewhat not all of it, but to an extent of us right now are caught between the kingdom of God and the kingdom of darkness.
Except that, yeah, you could.
I'm not saying you follow Jack in terms of what he did.
But just that although that isn't how the Bible describes it. This is really interesting. I think this is where the kind of conceptual space for Halloween exists within the Christian imagination. Historically, that is, it's this idea that there's heaven and hell, and they're in this battle, and there's probably an acknowledgement that heaven's slightly stronger, but there is this kind of, you can trick the devil, and there's this kind of war going on, and then in the middle is there's this other space, and there's demons and angels, and they're all fighting it out. And that, you can understand that's kind of dualistic universe, but it just isn't the universe the Bible describes. So the biblical picture would be in Christ you're in the kingdom of heaven. Now I get that that we still as Christians struggle with sin. So we still, in a sense, behave sometimes as if we belonged to the kingdom of the air.
Yeah.
But we don't. Our citizenship is in heaven. So there's never that kind of sense of you're between one and the other. You're either in one or you're in the other.
Not as Christians, but in an absolute sense, probably not. But in terms of going, we are in this moment, we are in neither of those places, and there is a decision to be made in what direction you go.
I suppose I would say there is a decision to be made, but you're either in one or the other. You either belong to one kingdom or the other kingdom.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
yes.
Look,
and that's where obviously, because these are allegorical stories as opposed to. And at some point, every allegory, every symbol breaks down.
Yeah, and the other thing about them is they're sort of they're allegories at about 12 removes from the Bible, aren't they? So do you know what I mean? It's actually you tell that story about Jack-o'-lantern and you're like, where does that go back? And you really can't. You can't actually trace that back to the scriptures. You can trace it back to some people who reflect on the scriptures and then said one thing and then another thing, and you can probably get to a genealogy.
Yes.
But by the time you're there, it's so far away from where you started. It starts to feel a little bit like Chinese whispers sometimes.
Yes, but it's interesting to see, and therefore you can ask the question as to why a culture latches on to what it does, in the same way that because you could some people. It'd be interesting to see if someone took, say, Lord of the Rings and read it 1,000 years later.
Yeah.
And then goes, what they conclude is.
Well, and also, and if you took Lord of the Rings, and then you filled your churches with selected pictures from the movies,
Yeah.
and for most people, their access to the Lord of the Rings story was the pictures you'd selected, the ones you'd chosen to put on the wall, which are probably going to be the violent ones because that's where the stills are from. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And you know, and you're not really telling them what the Bible says very often, but they are surrounded by pictures of heaven and hell, mostly of hell.
Yes.
And your pastoral approach appears to largely be to frighten people.
Yes.
Then I can completely get where you get this kind of dualistic universe from. I suppose, you know, me, I'm kind of stand with the reformers on this one.
Yeah.
I get, you know, I know some people say, oh, all that lovely medieval art covered over. It's like, yeah, quite a lot of it needs to go, to be honest. Because it wasn't, at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to say, that's not a helpful picture to have on the wall, is it? So I think that's the trouble, isn't it? That when you rely on stories about the story, or pictures about the story, not the story itself, then it's no problem if everyone's just reading Lord of the Rings in 1,000 years. But it's if that's kind of been removed from everyday use, and instead you've just got, well, let's stick with the movies. Instead you've got kind of stills from the three Hobbit films and the three Lord of the Rings films, and that's what you're trying to get the story from. It's going to get confusing, isn't it?
And it's about where you. And we talked about this a little bit beforehand. My view is that I think a little bit, if you're going to go there and explain and contextualise it.
If you're going to do
it, if you're going to do Halloween,
do what it is.
Then lead it into All Saints' Day and lead it into All Souls' Day and understand its process.
So explain the difference. So All Saints' Day is...
All Saints' Day is for those of the saints of the church, those who we said have, run the race, have fought the good fight.
And by saints, we don't mean particular people. We mean saints in the New Testament sense. That is all the saints that have gone before us.
All the saints that have gone with
all Christians.
All Christians, just known and unknown.
And that's an important distinction.
Yes,
so we're not talking saints as in a few selected Christians,
no.
like St. Altmund and his pals. We're talking about...
Because if you think about it, you get if you church kind of calendar, you have these major saints have major days.
Yeah.
So it goes, well, what happens for the unknown ones? What happens for just nice grandma who was faithful, but no one ever knows who she was?
Yeah.
And so All Saints is for all of them.
Yeah.
The All Souls Day is then the
and that's so All Saints first November.
Yeah. Next day is All Souls Day, which is to an extent of acknowledging, or in a reformed sense, it's giving a moment for you to be able to grieve your loved ones that you cannot say with any confidence they were a saint, or
you're not sure
where they are. So what do you do with them? It's a place to hold that.
Yeah. So we haven't done it for a while, and perhaps we ought to do it again. We tend to hold it in the summer, just practicalities. Yes. But we used to have a annual kind of remembering service.
Yes.
Where often people who'd sort of had a funeral in the year before, or previous years, would just come and we'd read names out, we'd just, have a bit of time to remember. And I think most people find it quite helpful. We think about the comfort that comes from God. I'd usually end up preaching on a psalm for obvious reasons.
Yes.
So another time of year to do that. I mean, pragmatically, that time of year it's quite a lot going on, and it's wintry.
Yes.
So actually, we ended up with it. Usually, it was in June because that just was a better time of year for people.
And
but the idea's a good one.
And because it kind of tied in seasonally, because what has happened this time of season, everything dies.
It dies, yeah. No, it does work within the church as well.
And so you're in that moment, and then the beforehand, it's from what I understand, Halloween. It's actually interesting because we're sat underneath some gargoyles.
No, they're not technically gargoyles, apparently, because stuff doesn't come out of their mouths. They are.
This is great if you.
No one can see it.
You can't see this, but what we can see is we're in the vestry. You've probably worked that out from the cupboards if you know the place. Choir vestry, I should say. So you know that in the choir vestry, because it used to be the outside wall, there are some
faces
on the wall that most ignorant people like myself would call gargoyles, but someone told me they weren't gargoyles because they didn't spit out water, they were something else, but I can't remember what that is. So write into the podcasts and tell us, both correct all the misinformation we've just spread for the last 20 odd minutes and tell us what they should be called. But yeah, they're basically animal faces that you would have had on the outside of walls.
Yes, so you've got this saints and all sorts of, and beforehand you've got a moment where you recognise the battle. The battle, and then you can ask yourself the question, what do you do? And essentially it came up in we read the Gospels. Jesus talks about demons and talks about things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's important. So
what do you do? And also how do you teach? How do you teach younger children about that in a way?
And you need to, don't you? But what you don't do is just say it's a load of rubbish. I mean, I think that's why.
Yes.
That's why you do have to think, what do you do with Halloween? Because actually, you can't just say, oh well, it's a load of rubbish. There is, you do want people to take the spiritual world seriously, not to be frightened of it, but to actually not be dismissive of it either, as if it was all just a big joke.
Yes.
Because that's not the New Testament picture, is it?
No.
In the New Testament, demon possession is not funny.
No, and that's why. So within that, so what do you do when a demon knocks on your door? And one of the things that you talk about, well, the first thing is trick or treat. You don't let them in.
Yeah.
And you sacrifice something that you like. So you sacrifice your sweets, your treats, symbolically, to give it, and they go away.
Like
so there's a sense of a sacrifice, a sense of fasting, a sense of spiritual discipline, of practice that defends against darkness. So what defends against darkness?
Well, I would say, don't be placating demons. I mean, you don't need to do that because Jesus defeated them.
I agree. Do you know what I mean? It's and because you've got basically that quite complicated theological ideas that then been taken on by a society that has disconnected.
You have disconnected it, but also just picked up on quite a lot of kind of what I would describe as sort of medieval stuff that's gone on. Because we're talking about whatever they are that aren't gargoyles. A lot of church architecture is about the people doing it, and some of the masons just basically want to demonstrate their skills. Yeah. And that's one permitted way to do it. How good are you at carving realistic animal faces? Or how good are you at carving the kind of almost cartoony animal faces that everyone is expecting you to carve? So it's like at school sometimes, maybe you didn't do this, there'd be a phase of people of trying to draw a certain thing. Yeah. And everyone and you all sort of say, who can draw the dog's face or whatever it is, and then you'd almost like judge each other on how good they were. Mine were never any good. But it's that kind of idea, isn't it? Who's the best mason? Who can draw the most gargoyle? Yes. And so it's sometimes you've got to be a bit careful to say, is there actually any theology here? Yes. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's just medieval masons. You're allowed to stick gargoyles in church. I can make the best one. Look how good I can do it so the water comes out of his mouth. How cool is that? And of course, once someone does that, you've all got to do it. I mean, it's such a good idea, isn't it? Anyway,
but you get the what does Scripture say? When the stand firm, resist, and it's if you took it in its playful sense and you took out a lot of the extremity and a lot of the kind of.
So what I think you're saying is that there is a possibility of you could use current Halloween practices and reflect on them and possibly get from them to some sort of helpful Christian route.
Say that they started off as this, and they've gone off in a tangent.
Or you could certainly use them as a teaching tool in the way that you would with Christmas, in the way we would at Christmas, where we'd say, what do we do at Christmas? We get together with friends and family, we have presents, we eat together. Yeah. How do we feast? Feasting. These are all good things. What are they pointing us to? Okay.
In the same way, there's there is once a year, you kind of somewhat sense with your children there's monsters out there.
Yeah.
And there are monsters out there.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell them.
They don't look like monsters, though, do they?
They don't. Or
They look like your favourite cartoon characters or your...
Well, no, but I mean, like, the people you really want to watch out for generally don't tend to dress up and say, "Look at me, I'm a monster." Anyway, that's a whole other podcast.
well, but yes, and so you're kind of going. There's a dragon, so you need to. But that doesn't mean that you need to just run away and hide. You can respond to it and somewhat stand firm and protect your house.
Okay.
In an appropriate way. Now, what happens when you've got in a culture where you rock up and you've got someone who either has gone down a hypersexualized route or a hyper kind of grotesque route?
Yeah.
That's a different category.
Okay.
I mean, I wonder if the lure of Halloween confronts us more, whereas I would say the lure of the stuff around Christmas is equally as dangerous. Doesn't it?
No, it's just we're just so used to it.
The chocolate
and it's not as triggering, is it? Because to say eat lots of food, eat lots of chocolate, drink loads doesn't sound to Christian ears as bad as dress up like a witch or dress up like a demon. You're right. It's interesting that why does that kind of make us go, whereas the other one we're like, oh yeah, that's
soft
okay.
kind of gluttony.
It's just a bit of gluttony, isn't it? Yeah.
Put yourself into debt.
Yeah, and all those, and when divorce rate rises and all the rest of it. Yeah, we're over time, so I'm gonna finish this with one final little Halloween story. It must have been sometime in the early 80s. The fashion came for putting sort of pumpkins, or if you couldn't get a pumpkin, swedes, outside your house like a little lantern.
Yeah.
Okay, we did that one year. Obviously, we couldn't get a pumpkin for whatever reason. My dad made it with a swede. Let me tell you this, it is a heck of a lot harder to carve the insides of a swede out than it is to get the inside of a pumpkin out. There is a reason why if you're going to make a lantern out of a vegetable, you use a pumpkin, not a swede. So I can still sort of picture him, I must have been about 6 or 7 at the time, spending about 2 hours carving the inside out of this swede. Without stabbing himself, like really carefully cutting it out,
and obviously
because without breaking the outside, but also because my mum would probably say, "Well, we can use that." Do you know what I mean? So we're not going to waste it.
Yeah.
And then we made this lantern, and I don't think I was the only one pestering him for it, but I kind of slightly felt bad afterwards because I don't think we cared about the lantern enough for the amount of work he put into it. But then that's
that's
the joy. So there we are. That's I don't know if that's a good place to finish, but that's the place for finishing. There we go.
There we are.
Halloween.
Join us again later for part 2.